Oh yeah. Now, JP has already told you a bit about what the Philosoph is about. And what the Philosoph is about is answering those big questions. You know, like what's it all about? Is there a God? And what's he playing at? Whose round is it? Who's been zipping my shoes? And of course, why are we here? So, why am I here? Well, I'm here because JP asked me to be, and because there might be a drink in it for me. Yeah? No? Alright, I suppose it's because I love the Philosoph. The job of the recording secretary is an important one in society. The Philosoph is based on, as JP said, free speech. So it's important that there be someone there to record everything that's going on, so that accuracy is maintained, so that history may record how the fires of inspiration first kindled in hearts, brave hearts and inquiring minds, and because some of you might be politicians someday, and Daddy needs a new pair of shoes, and a car, and some drugs, and just put money in the brown envelope, and no one has to know how you embarrassed yourself with that. It was ready to pay for the house party, and then went off on a round about the Holocaust afterwards, okay? Because while it's true to say the job of the RecSec is to record what happened at the last meeting and read it out for the edification of the public, it's far more true to say the job of the recording secretary is to record who did what after the meeting and read it out for fun. So that the beers and the laughter and, depending on how drunk John Beecher actually got, projectile vomiting and heartfelt weeping of the audience, all while delicately skirting the law of defamation. Now, previous recording secretaries have sometimes had a pretty robust sense of humour. Robust, of course, meaning in this case, would get them beaten up by anyone if they tried it with someone bigger than them, which is when they do debaters. In the past, RecSecs have joked about the terrorist attacks on Basel, about pushing wheelchair-bound people down Patrick's Hill, and of course about masturbation, repeatedly at great length. That was a crazy week. On the other hand, last year, a former recording secretary almost got society sued and censured and banned and shot in the head and dumped in the quarry simply for suggesting that an audience member was a member of Peter, which while in fact a member of an entirely different equinox born guzzling clutch of misfits who spend all their time worrying about animals because they're not sufficiently clued in to the human race to understand this emotion you call love, or even how to hire a prostitute. So in the unlikely event that person's in the audience, Legalise or something, the record is now set straight, and you can stop thinking about defamation, or to put it more simply, move. Now, I have a great respect for the Office of Recording Secretary, and I don't consider it a platform to expound on masturbatory technique, for example. The social is another matter. Once I've got a baby inside me, things can go off. So I'll just get on with telling you what happened in the last meeting. The last meeting was, of course, the annual general meeting of the 159th session, where the new committee was elected to wrest control of the society from the cold, dead hand of its former master, an aged, shambling mess of a man whose idea of a good social was playing a version of Dungeons and Dragons based on the civil service. I've also heard he was crap in bed. The society, straining against his cruel yoke, perfunctorily honoured him in order to stop him from trying to do Napoleon before casting him into the wilds of real life. But who would take his place? Who would take the reins and guide the society towards light, truth, justice, good dental hygiene? Clearly, a new voice was needed to break with the house. Someone so novel they're on sale at airport news agents. So fresh they give you salmonella, ladies and gentlemen. Clearly, this was the case. So it was no surprise to a student of human nature that they picked this guy. A committee member of 2 years standing, a former captain of the Social Club, former PRO of the Societies Guild, whose brother was ordered 2 years ago, someone who's been in college so long that the course he was on first doesn't actually exist anymore. When you take advanced abacus programming and contemporary biblical studies, that's what you get. At least it's more relevant in Celtic civilization. And it could be worse, he could be screwing up his future and guaranteeing the life of being spat on in the streets by taking economics. Now, still the electorate obviously responded to his other qualities in electing JP Friend, a man smoother than a baby's waxed bottom, and he's checked, because even babies have to make an effort to look good. A man slicker than the Exxon Valdez crash and just as bad for the surrounding wildlife. But even JP can't do all this alone. He's marshaled around him a crack squad, using his noted charisma and his even more noted violent temper, and his rather less noted access to firearms and landmines. The Philosoph, one of the few UCC societies in flagrant breach of international arms conventions. Ask Iona about them has answered his call. It's a mix of the old and the new, the fresh blood and the congealed ichor, the sagacious and the wise, and the whippersnappers who want to have house debates about which transformer is best. This is my favourite one. It's a transformer. The worst of these, ladies and gentlemen, is this guy, the most childlike of the lot, Johnny B. He'll be ensuring you get to go away to loads of far-flung competitions, and in return you'll be ensuring that he keeps his mittens pinned to his jacket and evasively answers questions about where babies come from and where they go once JP has finished waxing the bottom. On the older, more crotchety side, we have the woman who's in charge of organising guest speakers for these little shindigs, Clara Green, who has at her disposal for enticing guests two enormous assets. Her surnames. Because it's amazing how a double-barreled name can fool people into thinking you've got class. We also have Becky West, mistress of our schools programme and last year's head of the SPC and Fresher-in-Chief, who is very lucky to be here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Becky obviously has a lot of stress to work out, dealing with pushy parents and teachers. Last night she was questioned at some length by the Guardian for viciously assaulting one Bernard Dunn. So that was the last week. Out with the old, in with the slightly less old, or at least not as smelly. But you're here tonight for a debate about the legalisation of cannabis. Cannabis is, as we all know, a gateway drug leading to harder and more dangerous things like tours and clubs and impressions painting and expectations holding. It's a controversial debate that engenders heated argument. On one side, anyway. The other side's got more important things to be doing, like finding new recipes for baked products. But it's important. And here's an interesting fact, which I'm sure many of you are aware, but I'm going to condescend to you anyway. The term hashish, ladies and gentlemen, Arab, and it lent its name to a secretive sect who indoctrinated their members by means of TCP-induced hallucinations. These hashashin, or assassins, ladies and gentlemen, were feared for their deadly arts and their fearlessness of death, and they would sow discord and confusion among enemy ranks by suddenly getting distracted by passing birds, or by wandering off to find something to eat, or in the game Assassin's Creed is anything to go by, trying to fly by jumping off mosques. Now, I'm not suggesting that tonight's proponents are deadly killers opposed to, for centuries to the Christian West. Nothing of the sort. In fact, in light of last year's neo-Russian litigation, all I'm suggesting about tonight's proposition speakers is that they appear to be present at this moment in time and space, and all the available evidence suggests that they are human beings. This is not a prejudgment of any sort, and if they are not here or anywhere, or human or not, or members or not of any or no organisation, group, collective, or community, that's absolutely fine, or not. Is that okay, university? No. Of course, I do feel fairly safe on the other hand in saying that they're properly guilty. As to the opposing speakers, there's no need to be circumspect, because due to last year's dropouts, our two opponent speakers are Philosoph members, Owen McSweeney and David Miller, both of whom are wanted in connection with several gruesome sort of crimes, and have associated with unsavoury individuals of every stripe, and furthermore, building up this from terror. I can slander them safely in this completely unfair way, like saying terror and so forth, because no one cares what people say about students. But as is someone's way of things, there are dark forces who have conspired to stop this debate from even going ahead. I speak not of the cat-handed attempts of Philosoph, our benighted sister society, the type of sister society try to have put up for adoption, but even human traffickers and Christian brothers have some standards. Even worse, but slightly less fast and loose with the truth, I speak of the poor. Now, you may have seen their posters, 95% of Europeans vote no to legalise cannabis, save our fisheries by chopping up the Philosoph committee and throwing them into the sea, €1.84 minimum wage under JP French, we love our constitution, the Philosoph is shit. That last one, not quite as subtle, but just as effective. These are the minutes.
Does anyone have any problem with me signing these minutes as a true and accurate reflection of the